I'd like to start off the discussion by asking what got you interested in this topic? What do you hope to gather by the end of this session?
Okay, I wanted to after I read the pitch, I want to know the relationship between the product management and the product manager. So I want to know the relation between them and how software project management can make you a better product manager. I want to know that.
Okay. Yeah, Tushar.
Yeah, in my case, I want to understand product better. Like since we have been working on product as well, so like there are a lot of products, a lot of problems set in. So how can we make product out of them, and how to manage all those stuff at the same time?
Okay. Yeah, Aryan. Could you hold your mic closer, please?
Yeah. So whenever I use software project management, I kind of get a lot confused because when I try to use software in specific, I kind of don't find any real value. So I just got curious because I thought it would help me clarify that connection.
Okay, so you don't have a good opinion about software and project management, and you are hoping that you can change that opinion today. Okay. Anyone else? What got you interested, or what do you hope to gain at the end of this session?
One thing is after so long, we're getting a workshop on product management. Second thing is how project management can help you in becoming a better product manager.
Yeah. So when I talk of project management, I'm not sure if this is covered under traditional courses of project management, but this is my approach for how I go about project management in the products which I personally deal with. And because here at Deep Thought, we work with a lot of youngsters who probably with limited experience or doing it for the first time. So we try and do the heavy lifting. We try and make it so simple that an intern can take smaller pieces, do those smaller pieces, and that can be assembled. So in this process, what I've noticed is I've gone into a lot more detail than I would when I just describe the product, right? So at the end of this workshop, hopefully all of you would understand how to go into the details of the implementation rather than just discussing conceptually, right? So now when we discuss problem solving, right? So a lot of product managers say, hey, I want a product to do this, I want my product to do that. Let's say, okay, let's do a small exercise, right? Let's say Uber app didn't exist. Let's say Uber app didn't exist and you were creating the Uber app. Can you describe what you're going to do? Uber app didn't exist and you're creating the Uber app. What would you do? I mean, can you describe your app? Yeah, Aryan.
So like there would be some people who already have cars and all who will come to your place and pick you up instead of you having the effort to buy a car.
Okay. Anyone else? So Aryan, you see that's a typical product manager for you. And a software developer will go crazy with that. Because I'll tell you why software developers sort of would have a lot of problems with some product managers. The product managers talk very vague, talk in a very ambiguous manner, and they enjoy the creative bursts of throwing ideas. I want this, I want that, I want this, I want that. But the software developer has to eventually go execute. As a software developer, I wouldn't like ambiguity. I'd want clarity. But product managers, again, would not like to commit to something. They want to be constantly, they get that, stimulation by thinking one idea after another idea. And let me, at the risk of sounding a little arrogant, let me say, it's a lot tougher to execute that idea than to just come up with 100 ideas. They say ideas are dime a dozen. You know, you spend 10 cents and you get 12 ideas. Ideas are cheap, execution is expensive. So today we'll see how we can take that idea and how we can drive it till execution level, right? And given that I took Uber example, let's see how we could make an MVP of Uber, right? Now, I want to make a little app. I don't want to build too much. I want to build something small. And once it gets acceptance, I want to build more. So initially, before I go into the app, I want to get a sense of what am I trying to achieve through the app. Now, what is the primary problem you're solving through the app? What is the macroeconomic perspective of this app?
Getting people jobs.
No, that's too broad.
Making it easy for people to book rides.
Okay.
Bringing riders and drivers together, like to build an ecosystem where they can book their ride at one.
The economic perspective is deeper than that.
Making transportation convenient.
You had all these Meru cabs, you had so many cabs. There was no shortage of cabs, right? I mean, there's so many cabs. What's the problem you solve?
Cabs at an affordable price.
Okay, no, but that's what is a macro story, which it's not just about affordable price, right? Affordable price is one-sided story. It's one-sided to the passenger.
Clarify.
Huh?
Yeah.
You can go ahead. Okay. Question. So, like things like Vero cab, would they come to your place to pick you up, or were those like auto rickshaws?
No, you could call them up and book.
Okay, and then they would come to your place.
Yes. For me, I think the way I define the problem is the system of booking cabs is broken. There's a lot of wastages. Can we plug those wastages, save the money, and pass on the benefit to the customer? What do I mean by it? If I'm a taxi driver, and if you're asking me to come and pick you up, I have to travel from where I am to your place. That's an additional cost for me. I'm of course not going to put it from my pocket. I'm going to ask you to pay for it. Second, once I drop you in a place, I could be idle there. My time is my money, because in a day I'm supposed to earn X amount of money. So if I'm going to be idle, I'm of course not going to put it from my pocket. I'm going to ask you to pay. Or if I'm a typical taxi driver, I'm not going to sit idle there. I'm going to come back from there to a busy street with a hope that someone will, come in there. That's why, right? I mean, typical taxi driver's dialogue. Sir, wapas raste mein kuch nahi milega. I'm not going to get anything back. Because the taxi driver's thought process is, A, from my location, I have to come to your location. So that's an additional cost for me. B, from wherever I dropped you, I have to come back to a busy location. That's an additional cost for me. And C, even after coming back, I might not get a ride. So my calculation is, in a day, I might calculate that I can do 6 rides. So if I want to be making 1,000 rupees per day, my one ride is going to be 160 rupees. Which is purely the cost of my time. I'll put that cost on you. But what if I can do 12 rides in a day instead of 6? It's going to come down to 80 rupees, right? So you see the amount of wastage which is there in the system. I would like to solve this problem of making the system efficient. And when the system becomes efficient, A, the driver earns more. B, there's a lot of wastage which gets saved. All that benefit, right? That petrol cost and that unnecessary time cost and all, some of that benefit you can pass it on to the customer. What do you mean by pass it on to the customer? Either me as a company, I can eat away that extra profit, or I can say, no, I don't want to eat away that entire profit. I'll take a bit of that profit, but a little bit of the savings, I'll give it as a benefit to the customer. So just so that this example is understood, let me give an example of IKEA. If I'm IKEA, what am I doing? I don't assemble your furniture. I put it in a small box. I sell you that small box. I sell you that small box, right? So you don't, and I don't offer you transport. You will have to, take it to your house. But if you look at a traditional furniture company, they'll offer the assembly, they'll offer the transport, and the entire furniture is already assembled in the store and you look at it. But if it is IKEA, the furniture is packed inside a small box and kept over there. So who's having a greater cost of storage, IKEA or a traditional furniture store? Who's having a greater storage cost?
Traditional store.
Why? Because they're assembling the whole thing, no? But what is IKEA doing? Putting it inside a small box. So IKEA has lower cost. Then does IKEA have a transport cost? They're like, no, sorry, I will not give you transport. Does IKEA have an assembling cost? They're like, no, you have to assemble it, do DIY. They call it DIY. Now, what is IKEA doing at the end of it? They're saving money on multiple fronts and they're passing on the benefit to the consumer. Now, if I'm getting very high quality products at a lower price, I'll even stand in a queue to come and buy there. When IKEA launched in Hyderabad, there was a queue like Tirupati Darshan. People are waiting outside to get in. I went there only after a month because I didn't. And even when I went after a month, there was so many people. I mean, that was the most talked, the moment, in Hyderabad, that was the biggest moment, IKEA. Have you gone there? It was like typical, like Tirupati Darshan. Have you gone there and come back? So you understand what is happening when you get the economics right? What happens when you get the economics right? You can pass on the benefits to your customer, and part of it you can keep. And what will happen when you pass on the benefits to your consumer? Your consumer's cost will decrease. When your consumer's cost will decrease, what will happen to your volume?
Increase.
So your overall profit volume
will also increase.
So is it good economics? So now let us say that the bigger story of our app is we want to create good economics for cabs. That's a story, what we want to achieve through our product. Now, what is a micro story? Micro stories, I have 100 taxi drivers in one region of, say, Mumbai. Only in one region, I have 100 taxi drivers. Anybody who wants a cab, and I'll operate cabs only in this region. The cabs will not travel outside this region. And I have data which proves to me that within this region itself, people travel a lot. So if anyone wants a cab in this region, I will take the order and I'll send a driver there who's closest. And I will make sure that each driver gets minimum of 10 rides per day. Now, what if the driver doesn't get 10 rides per day? I'll tell the driver, don't worry, whatever rides you don't get, I'll pay from my pocket. So I'll give the driver an assurance that you will get minimum these many rides per day. I'll tell the driver to operate at that price point only. Now, what if the driver doesn't get those rides? I'll pay from my pocket. So I'll tell the driver, you please operate at this cost. Then, but what if I don't get enough demand? If I don't get enough demand, my system will break. I want enough movement. That's when my model will improve. So what will I do? I'll tell the passenger also that I'm giving you 50% off. But to do this, exactly, I need to be collecting data. So I'm only using secondary data of some study to say that this thing is profitable. So I need data. So I need people to use it. So what will I do? I'll ask some investor for some money. I'll use that money to subsidize it for the users. I'll use that money to assure the cab drivers go on. This is my micro story. So there'll be drivers. I'll assure the drivers that they'll get minimum number of rides. I'll assure them that they'll be busy all through the day wherever they go. And I'll assure the passengers that you're going to get a good price, and I'll make them use the cab more and more. So if Aryan is somebody who always used an auto, now because my price is lower than that of an auto, Aryan leaves that auto and comes and travels in a cab. Now this is my story. Now I want to build a small mobile app through which I can validate this story. So I don't want to build too many things, right? So now so step one, what did we do? We created a story. Step two, we want to come up with a little scope for agility. So what is that little scope? As long as you can find a right taxi and you get that taxi and you can make a payment and the taxi driver receives the payment, good enough. Now, simple question. For your initial version of the app, do you think showing the map where the driver is, how quickly the driver is going to come to you is going to be that important? Why not?
Because those are like things, even if you don't know, the cab driver will still come to your place and help you, and that's it.
I can always say that if the cab driver doesn't come, I'll give you 100 rupees. Or if the cab driver doesn't come, I'll send you a chocolate. Or I'll give you 100 rupees if the cab driver doesn't come. So what happens to the customer?
They're okay with not
Right.
fixing.
But a fundamental problem is, how will you know where the cab driver is? How will you coordinate? You want to arrange cabs, right? So now here the question is, what is that main problem you want to solve? So that you focus only on solving that problem and everything else will come later. Mainly, my user in one location is telling me that I want a taxi. And my taxi, then I want to understand where all my taxi drivers are. And I want to find out who's closest, and I want to ask the taxi driver if the taxi driver wants to go and send the taxi driver there. And maybe I want to give an estimate to that person also, how much time it might take to come. Now, what is the bare minimum you need to charge a customer? Now, if Aryan is a customer, Aryan wants a cab from location A to location B. What is the bare minimum that Aryan needs so that he'll work with me on my app? You just want the taxi, right? As long as you get the taxi, as long as the pricing is fair, Aryan doesn't mind it. So what's the bare minimum you want to solve? I want Aryan's location. I want taxi's location. And I want the billing to be there on the platform. That is, I'll integrate it with Razorpay or something. Or I'll make life easy. I'll not put billing on my platform. I'll tell you pay in cash to the driver. Because I'm anyway not taking anything from the driver. It's a pilot.
You could just put a UPI QR code or the.
But how will I track whether the payment went through? No. I'll say you pay the driver. I'll not put the payment page. So then what is the most important thing I need? I just need the locations and I need a way to determine the price and tell them the price. And maybe I need rating. Is rating important for the initial version?
Yes.
Why?
Based upon that factor, no, future traffic will be decided.
Why?
Like, is the service providing as what they said or not? Like, are the users getting benefit out of it?
Correct. In the study, eventually you want to validate your model. So understanding what users feel is critical. You can't do away with it. Live GPS, you can do away with it. You can bring it later. Payment, you can do away with it. You can bring it later. But what is your main objective of the study? I want to know whether users are.
Satisfied or not?
No, I mean, what do you mean? Why will they trust you? I mean, they'll give a rating and they'll take out their frustration, no? If the cab driver is rude or something. So,
In that situation, we will make sure the things go on a smooth way, no?
I mean, Tushar, worst case, you can also call up the customers and request them and make sure they rate you. Or, yeah, and you can ask the driver, ki rating pucho. If your rating is good, you will get more preference and all. I mean, that's what your Swiggy delivery boys do, no? Anna rating de do. Yeah. So you could do that. So now in scope for agility, what are the key features we said? I want to get the location of all these users. Then I would like to decide which cab has to go there. And then I would like to decide the pricing and get the rating. That's it. I want a rating feature. I want the location and I want to show the price. Whether cab driver rates the passenger and passenger rates the driver. That's it. Now, so this is our story, right? Now let's go into specifics of it. So what all screens will you need for this? I'll need a screen where the user can tell me, where am I? Where do I want to go? Now, do I need Google Maps? Initially, let's say I will not use maps. I'll just make them type the location. That's it. Because we are saying Uber didn't exist. When Uber didn't exist, people were only taking traditional autos and cabs. That time they were orally telling it anyway. I'll put where I am. I'll put where I want to go. And I'll put a book button. Or inquire. I'll put one button. Then it shows me the price estimate. Once the price estimate comes, there'll be a book button. Inquire, that will change into a book button. So two states, right? Book state and inquire state. Then third state is I'm waiting and then I'll click on ride. I'm just waiting. Third state, I'm just waiting and it will show that your ride will come in this much time. Then I want a place where I can see the history of my rides. This ride, the driver's name, from where to where I went, and how much money I paid.
Now, why do we need history in the first place?
Exactly. That's a good question. Do I need that history? What are your objectives? Your objectives are, you want to run this model, you want to get people used to it, you want to collect data also, and you want to understand this business better. Now, if your early users can see the history of what all rides they took, would that help you? I mean, would that help your early customers? Or is it critical to your experiment of delivering initial value?
Yeah, we can know the most places that people are gathering in and
So you
push
collect the data,
driver.
but why are you showing it to the user? You collect it on the back end. Why are you showing it to the user?
If they
Oh,
still had a problem with the driver but didn't mention it during the ride, they could just acquire.
Correct. Yeah, you want them to be able to give feedback later, right? If they forgot then. So they can see the rides and give feedback. You want them to see see, these are all the experiences you created for them. You want to show the experiences that you created for them, right? Does my argument make sense? And here, fourth state, wait state And fourth state for me is the feedback state after the ride has ended.
I have a question. Do we really need to show them the experiences that we have created for them? Like for, the very initial phase, like they're just booking and then getting the rides.
So are you in the
So-
business, or are you just trying to earn some money out? Or are you trying to create an experience and tell to passengers that this is a better way of traveling?
Yeah, the second one, we want to create.
So is your user
such
experience more than
experience.
anything else?
Right.
So you're able to show them that this is all the experiences are created for you, right? Map and all you could not show, but at least this you can show, right? They can come, they can rate, they can give feedback. So you have one state where they book, and then you show that your ride is going to come in this much time, this. And at the bottom, you have the feedback button. So screen one, screen two, and you have the history. Do you need anything else in the app? For the user, I mean for the passenger. As a passenger, I can book. I'll tell where I am and where I want to go. I'll get the price estimate. I'll book. Then it'll tell me that the driver is on the way, will come in this much time, and I can give feedback. And I can see my history also in terms of where all I went in the past and so on.
What if you still disagree with the price estimate?
Good question. What if I get a price and I disagree? Can I do something?
Or you could just tell them that you can leave the app if you don't like it, and then if you can
You don't
reward.
have to tell them. That's what people will do if you don't do anything.
Yes, so you can note every time people have already acquired but they left the app, so that you could better your price estimates later on.
Correct. Yeah, you track the data on the back end. Right. Now, anything else which is the journey and complete now. They come, they book, they see the history, they can give feedback, done. Now, from a driver's experience, I'm a driver. So, one, I want a screen which shows me where is the passenger now, where does the passenger want to go, and what is the price I'll get, and whether I want to accept or reject. And the same history thing, right? I can have my version of history. Whom all I took and where did I take? Then again, I want my version of feedback, right? Where I can show how much time it will take for me to get there, and I can give my feedback. So it's a very similar sort of experience for both.
Or you could just even in the customers you could add this chat box like that. Yeah, those both can interact of where they are.
You need the chat.
I,
Or can you
Uh,
just put a phone number there so they can talk to each other via call?
yeah, like it happens now. Yeah.
So that's unnecessary coding for you, right? To again put a chat feature there. You don't want to do too much in the MVP stage.
And why does the driver need a history if like that driver gets tens of people?
You can show the driver, no, you earned so much through me. So the driver is loyal to you. You're showing the driver how much he earned through you.
You could just show the total.
But instead of the total, if you show, the driver can recall, acha, this guy, I took all of them.
Why does the driver need to recall?
Hey,
Is
wait,
it-
so then we forgot the onboarding journey, right? The person has registered with us. So there's a login page.
Why do they even need to register? Couldn't they just go to the app?
Login, forgot, password, sign up, all three. No, because if they're registered, you can track them, you can monitor their history, you can give them a better experience, right? You can track where all they're going if they're registered.
You could just create a virtual ID for them on your own and then see that
It's
whatever.
not tougher than normal login sign up, right? Normal login sign up and all, you already have codes available. You don't have to write the code from the scratch.
Yeah.
So you have that one login sign up and all screen, and you have these 3 screens, and the 3 screens come in 2 flavors with minor changes.
But don't you already know the phone the person's working on and each
What if the person changes the phone?
then the whole account is changed then.
Yeah, but you want to track that account. And what if you want to give this experience on the web also, other than mobile? Or what if you initially want to test it as a web app and then bring it as a mobile app later? They can use it on the web anywhere, any device.
Yes, but if they are using it at one place, it's more
Basically, you
like
track them with a phone number, but how will you know which phone number they're using? Your app doesn't know which phone number they're using.
you could just ask like the starting permissions that
No, but permission also, if I'm not sure if you can see the phone number.
you could just see the IP address.
IP address changes from time to time for some of the ISPs.
Yeah, but those are rare cases that mostly people.
Static IP is tough to get. In most cases, the IP changes from session to session,
Okay.
unless you have a static IP. So now let's look at what all data do I want to collect, right? I want to collect the username. I want to collect the location A, location B. Then basis this, I'll decide a price, right? This is the data which I'm taking to my server. Based on A and B, I'll do some calculation and give a price. Now for showing this, what all data do I have to collect? Username, driver name, point A, point B, date and time, and price, correct? Now these are all rides. I have one database of rides. I store all rides in my database. To show this page, what all data do I need? I just need data of all the rides which happened, right? Now, if let's say Tushar is one passenger and I want to show his history, what do? I find only those rides where Tushar is a passenger and I show them there, correct? If Aryan is a driver and I want to show his history, what do? I show only those rides where Aryan is the driver and I show that history. So whether it is for Aryan or whether it is for Tushar, if I have the right database, I can show this histories, right?
And also another thing to
Here
add
I'll
is
also need feedback, right?
Yeah.
Both the feedbacks I'll store. Detailed feedback. And I'll need another database, which is driver database, where I have the basic details of the drivers. And I have the passenger database.
why would you keep a database for the passenger?
Hmm?
Okay, is it like shown to the drivers, the passenger database?
So for
or-
you to identify, not to everyone, this is the passenger and all of that. You want to have the data, no? For yourself, for your marketing team also, their email address, their phone number and all of that.
Yes.
How is the first database different from the other databases?
Which one?
Like, the user, driver, AB, and how is it different from the passenger or the driver that you're
No,
specifically
that is
collecting?
the right database, no? Tushar took a ride from Aryan today at 7 o'clock in the morning. Ahmad took a ride from Tarun today at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm tracking only rides, this ride, that ride, and so on.
Okay, we can say that they are more like models inside the database.
Yeah, these are schemas for the database.
Okay, exactly.
Not to use technical language because there are some folks here who are not into coding. But yes, if you insist, I'll call them schemas. I'm writing the schemas for my databases. So, but for those who are not developers, let me make your life easy. I'm just trying to see what all data do I want to store. I want to store all my rides data, right? This ride happened, this passenger and this driver from this place to this place, this price, this was the feedback given by the passenger, this was the feedback given by the driver, and this was the price which was paid. Then I also need the database of all users. I need the database of all drivers. Now, if let us say a passenger is in point A and wants to go to point B and asks you for a taxi, how do you decide which taxi you're going to send to them?
The closest one,
How do you find out the closest one?
by tracking their location.
Exactly, which means every 1 minute I want the location of all the
Caps.
cabs. So I need a fourth database, which is the locations database.
Can we store the, route details of all the rides that the customer took?
Sorry?
If a customer goes from point A to point B and the route they took is not so good, can we store that in our database and may not use that route again because that route is not so good? Maybe the road is not so good or the traffic is really high.
Good question. Now, in your MVP, do you want to do that?
Yeah, in the initial stage, it would be hard.
And if you think about it, a lot of these guys don't even put their own technology for it. They delegate it to Google Maps or something, and they use third-party maps.
Yeah.
That's a good question. You may want to track that route also and get more intelligence around the route going forward, but not in my MVP, right? I'll probably bring it later. I want to solve the core problem right now. So without the route intelligence, I can still give the ride. But without the location, live location database, can I give proper rights?
No.
My decision making can be bad, right?
Or what you could just do is that you could tell the driver to kind of tap at one button every 1 minute. The driver is free, and
No,
that
but why
would
would the driver do that? You can just you can just set up a socket with the which is constantly talking to your server. You could set up a communication. So every 1 minute you have the permission and the location is coming to your database and you store it every 1 minute.
is it that more complex?
It's not complex. Because you need this, right? You need the location every 1 minute. So take it. So you need 4 databases, right? What are the 4 databases? Drivers, passengers database, rides database, and live locations of these drivers. So if I have these 4 databases, I can operate. Now, let's look at the screens and the relationship between the screens and the database. Now, I have this screen.
I have a question, like before we jump to that, like from driver's perspective, like how do we decide which driver to send? Like what if there are more than one people who are at the same distance from the user?
MVP है ना, inky pinky ponky कर लेंगे. We'll randomly allocate someone. It's just an MVP, right? We can make that decision slowly. Or you might say, okay, I'll allocate a driver with more rating. Then I have my rides database, the third one. And I have my locations database. Why am I not mixing my locations database with the drivers database? Does the drivers database change very often?
No,
No,
Locations database?
every minute.
it will change.
So because I know this is not going to change and this is going to change, I'll keep them separate. It's like if you have some information which will change a lot and there's some information which changes very rarely, will you write both of them in the same book or will you keep them in different books?
Different books.
Because this book you may not take it out too often, but this book you'll take it out too often. So this book will probably be more damaged compared to that other book. And secondly, why do you want, so here you can, this will be more secure, right? Because you have phone numbers, email address and all which you don't want to expose outside. but this one is accessed a lot more. So now this database where I show you an A, I mean, you choose an A and a B and you get a price that talks to the server. The server calculates a price and sends it back. Right? So I need one price calculation method. Right? Then once it is booked, my server has to talk to a driver. The driver has to be shown the A, the B, and the price. So from the server, then I talk to the rides database, right? This ride is about to get booked. Am I making sense? Once this person clicks book, from my server to my database, I write to my database that this ride is about to get booked. Then from that database, and parallelly from the server, this information comes here. The driver clicks on accept. Sorry, it may not come there directly. Once the driver clicks on accept, it goes to the ride database. So the driver's app will talk to the ride database. Then the server will also talk to the locations database. So I need a method called which driver, right? Do I make sense? What's the flow? Ahmed enters the A, enters the B, and says, I want a cab. And the price is told by the server, and the price is updated. Ahmed says, okay. Then the server then goes into the location database to see who is the closest. And then it runs a method called which driver. That method tells it, okay, please send Aryan is close by. So then Aryan goes to the location. Then when Aryan gives feedback, that again goes to the which database? Rides database. Feedback of driver also goes to the. So what is the method I need here? Write feedback method. For both of them, I need a write feedback method, right? Which will talk from the screen to the database. Then my login and sign up pages, right? For both driver and the customer, they'll talk to which database? User database. So I'll need one method which will talk to the user database, one method which will talk to the driver database. I'll need a method which will talk from the driver to the ride database. And I need one feedback method which will talk either from the driver or the user to this database. So talking to database, how many methods do I need? I need one method which will talk to location database. One method which, so this is method one from driver to ride. Method 2 from location to server. Method 3 writing feedback. Method 4. Method 5. I need 5 methods to talk to the databases, right? And I need a 6th method, which is just going to decide the price without talking to any database. So now what did we do here?
Wouldn't the 6th database also be connected to the location one of driver?
Which database?
The location database.
To what?
Location database to the, like, how you decide how much payment they.
Let's say you don't. Let's say you decide only based on kilometers initially.
So doesn't that also be?
Correct. That has to talk to the location database to decide the price. Good point. To decide the price, No, then I'll need a, no, I might have a method in my background. Okay, yeah, I need a database where this location is converted to longitude, latitude, so I can convert the, right. So I'll need a new database. Good point. I'll need a new database, which is my geography. Let me call it the geography database. So the moment the user makes a request for the price, it talks to this geography database and then it gets the price. Good point. So now, what do you guys realize? What did we do first? We wrote our story of what we want to achieve through the app. Macro story, micro story. Macro story is what is the bigger picture? What are we trying to achieve? Micro story, specifics of what actions will happen. That was step 1. Step 2, what did we do? We wrote down how many screens it takes. What did we say? On the user end, there are 3 screens. On the driver end, there are 3 screens. And apart from that, there's login, sign up, forgot password, and all routine stuff. Then what did we say? What is the data flow? Which one communicates to which one? Now, let's go through our entire data flow. I'm a new user. I download the app. I go through login page. I go through login page and sign up page. I create my account. Or when I go through login page, it will talk to the user database to verify my password, right? So that's the initial flow, login, sign up and all flow, which is a routine flow, nothing new which I'm building. I'll copy paste from the internet. Then what is happening when the user logs in and sees the screen? The user enters a location to location. Then when the user clicks inquire, this screen talks to the geography database. Then there'll be one function called price which will run, which will check the distance between the both the A and B by using longitude, calculates the kilometers, maybe multiplies it by 20 and gives the price back. Got the flow? I enter A, I enter B and I click inquire. It goes to the geography database. Geography database means this function will run. It will access the longitude, latitude and then send the price back. Okay. Then after this is done, the user confirms. Once the user confirms, it goes to the driver. The driver will also confirm. Once it confirms, it talks to the ride database. It makes a new entry to the ride database saying that this ride is underway. When this ride has started. Then once the ride is ended, the moment these people enter the feedback, that method will go and write to the ride database. But yes, sorry, we forgot this part. Key. Once the user says okay, then it talks to the driver location database and then checks which driver is closest. It asks the driver, do you want to go? And if the driver refuses, then again it will go to this database, delete the old driver, ask for a new driver, and ask the driver, will you go? And it will keep doing this thing until if it finds a driver who will say, I'll go. But parallelly, it has to remember temporarily which all drivers said I'll not go. So this is a complex function which I'm writing. Because I'll keep looping until one driver agrees to go for that price. Do I make sense? So this is the overall flow. Now in this flow, what's the trickiest one we realized? Which driver functions? So now what does my front-end developer do? Now let's look at the screens. Login, sign up and all is copy paste. Even an intern will do it. Right? Then the screen where I tell my A, I tell my B and inquire. That's a very simple HTML screen where it's just a form you're showing. Right? And the form ka fields are predefined. So that's a very straightforward thing. Even an intern will do it. Then on the front end, what else are you doing? You're taking feedback from the user. That's again straightforward. Now when it's history, what are you doing? You're taking all the data from the backend and you're just showing that in a UI. So that's again very straightforward. Anyone can do it. That is, using a templating language from the backend, you generate it. For server side, you render it and you show it. So is this a front-end heavy application? Even a trainee can do the front end. Now, as far as backend is concerned, you have 5 databases. Do you have the schemas for the database? There's a structure of how the database looks like. Your user database, what is it? Your name, your email address, your phone number. That's it, which I'm going to collect. Your what did I say? The what's the other database? Driver database is again similar. Then you have a database which is the rides database. There you know what all we wrote, what all we remember. Geography database, name of the place, and the longitude, latitude. That's it. Then what's the other database? Driver location database. Driver location database, what will you show? Driver name, time updated, location. So you know what all databases you have. Then you know you have 6 methods. What are the 6 methods doing? They're either reading something from the database or they're updating something to the database. Simple. But where is the logic very tough? One place where the logic is tough is you want to look at all the locations. You want to look at all the locations and you want to calculate the price and relay the price to the front end. But what is the trickiest one? Once the price is decided, you going and checking with the driver. You remembering which driver refused. Not going back to the driver. Going to another driver. Again checking and doing this to and fro. So where would you put your best backend developer? On this function, no, how you will do it. But before you give everybody their job, why have you defined your databases, your screens, and your data models? I mean, your database with the data models and your screens. Why have you defined all these before you say that my trainee backend developer will write all these things? My senior backend developer is going to write these 2 methods, which are the toughest pieces. My trainee front-end developer will make all the, 8 screens. Why do you decide all your databases and your screens before you assign roles to everyone?
For effective to develop the product in the less time.
Why is that effective if everyone knows what databases are used and what screens will be used?
They'll understand their role better.
See, if I'm a backend developer, that database is not already there. But can I assume that it exists and start doing my work? It's not currently there. What will I do in my local? I'll make a dummy database. That screen doesn't exist. What will I do?
I'll just use a simple form for that.
Correct. So if I know what all will come later, I can use dummies and start, no? But what if I don't know what's going to come up? I don't know where to start. One mistake which a lot of amateur developers do is they don't do this careful planning before they directly go into coding. But if you're a developer, between the front-end developer and the back-end developer, it's very important to have this complete coordination. That entire design, right? You want to design this whole thing, commit to a plan, and then go and execute. What happens when you do this?
You understand what you're going to work on really well, and have that picture in your mind, and then are able to execute it better.
And your backend developer's job is a piece of cake now. All I have to do is I have this data, I need to write it to the server, I need to write it to the DB. That's it. A basic CRUD operation. Front-end developer's job is also very easy. This API is going to bring this data to me. I have to show it on the front end. That's it. When the scope is not defined, people will get confused, people will get anxious. But what happens when the scope is defined?
Yeah, you won't get overwhelmed by the huge task you have.
Yeah, Chinmay, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, like they know what to do and they will not get confused. Like if you have a plan, like these things you have to do,
Like you will not get wired up in it.
See, and you want that plan to be at the data flow level. You want to know your data flows really well. What data, where is it going to come from? What is going to come? If you're able to write this part well, na, coding is a piece of cake. You're only going to do copy paste from Stack Overflow. But the real thing the developer is going to do is write this process flow diagrams properly and then write the code to implement this process flow. Data flow. But this is a big mistake which a lot of people make. And so you know what happens in all these service companies? The project leader spoon feeds the developers and then they do it. But in a product company, we expect that the developer itself is able to do it. But life is easy if you can go into this detail. Now, if you think about it, I need a database of different locations. Did I realize it until I was cross-questioned? That's what I meant by going into the implementation detail in the beginning. Because how did Aryan get that question? He asked, how will you decide the price? You have A and B locations. How will you know price between A and B? You need the longitude, latitude to find the distance. And based on the distance, you'll decide the price. So when a product manager is just discussing concepts, that won't work out. You want the product manager to go into the implementation detail. For this, I don't need any coding now. I'm just looking at what is the data, where is it going to be stored, what are the methods which you're going to run, what are the states in the front end. That's it. Yeah, Tushar.
Yeah, like if having that implementation still helps a lot in the coding, then why does in the project company it doesn't happen? Like why do a lot of people make the same mistake?
They don't want to. They're in a tearing hurry. They want to directly do the work. People don't understand the importance of planning. Now that's the problem.
Okay, but like they do, like okay, they might not know. Okay, yeah, got it.
So even in deep thought, right? Many of the interns, they don't do it. And you know what we're doing on Monday? We're sending an email that if we learn that you're not doing this planning, we'll terminate you from the internship. We're warning them. That's non-negotiable. It's a good practice you have to follow. Because your number of days on coding will drastically reduce if you do this. Because you know what to do. You know the scope of what to do. Like today I was doing a very, very challenging project. We spent 3 hours on it. And you know what Shravan looks at it and tells me? It's as though we are going to war. But you know what? 1 week of brainstorming I finished in 3 hours. Because I just put all the process flows in a neat way. I visualized the whole thing in a neat way on paper and finished everything with all the people. Front end, back end, everyone was there. We finished it. 1 week of effort, I saved it. No. And we decided we're going to put one trainee on the front end. And Shravan, who's our lead backend developer, will execute the backend. And for Shravan also, what I noticed is almost everything I finished, he just has to implement. This is how project management can really save your time on the software development front. And if you're a product manager, it teaches you to think with so much of detail which you leave out. You'll start thinking in a data-driven manner. You'll start making better decisions because you'll start learning to think in a data-driven manner if you're a product manager doing all this. So I'd like to conclude by listening to your reflection. So what is your takeaway and what are your learnings from this workshop? Yeah, Tushar.
In my case, first of all, I got to reflect or think about the importance of planning, because in my case I've been working on this conversation intelligence course, and like I was just thinking about them for the past few days, but not being able to like get the result very well. So now that I think about it, the problem was not having the proper visualization of how I want the course to be. So like it gave me an idea on what I need to do, which is better planning. So
and then
yeah,
better,
it was
when you say better planning, right? That this appears like a Jay Shetty motivational lecture to me.
better visualization of how I want the
Again,
course
that's
to look
another
like.
Jay Shetty second
Okay.
lecture. How do you do that planning? How do you do that visualization? The how matters.
Right.
Write the blocks, write the basic blocks that my course will have My course will have a video on this topic. My course will have one quiz here. My course will have this. Make a blueprint of it and check if the blueprint makes sense to you. Then go implement all the details of the blueprint. That's what we're doing here, right? I have this database, I have this flow, I have this screen. I made a blueprint. Once the blueprint is ready, then I go make the screen. Then I go make the database. Then I go make the API. So what is planning? Making the blueprint, right? What's the blueprint? You draw an outline of what all pieces are there and how the pieces interact with each other. Yeah. Anyone else wants to go into the reflection? Yeah, Krishna.
It's not a reflection. I have one question for you. Today we had a discussion with Nasreen. Akib asked what's the difference between product manager and a project manager. What she told is product management is a huge thing. So if you consider a product, there are multiple projects in a single product. So product manager is in a higher position. He has to take care of the whole product. But a single product can have multiple projects. So project manager is at a lower level than a product manager.
Not true. It can work both ways, right? In a project, I can have multiple products. In a product, I can have multiple projects.
So you are saying that we can use that interchangeably.
I mean, in different setups, right?
Okay.
In the same product, I could have broken into multiple projects and maybe different people are running the pieces which we assemble. And the same project might have multiple products in it. I could have one project manager which is managing, like in DeepThought, I'm a project manager and I'm managing like 5 products and I'm then connecting the products myself by breaking it into pieces. Could be done different ways. So, I mean, some people who come from the industry come with biases because they've seen only one flavor. But if you look at it conceptually, right, theoretically, who's a product manager? Product manager is the one who has a vision of the product and can talk to the people and make sure the product vision is carried by the developers properly. Who's a project manager? Project manager is the one who can make sure all the people are on the same page and they're able to deliver their results on time. Now, I could be a project manager who's not a product manager in the sense that I only know how to make everyone, including the product manager, function efficiently. I could be a product manager who's not a project manager. Means I can't take the responsibility of the release. I can't make sure everything runs on time. But I can make sure that whatever you're making is aligned with the vision. Now, DT has a lot of product managers who are not good project managers. They can't make the thing run on time because they can't break things down and do it. But they know what the product vision is and they can drive the product vision. So you could have a product manager who's not a project manager. You could have a project manager who's not a product manager. But if you can do both, that's fantastic. And typically there are technical project managers who usually, I think, can manage a product as well. So they take the complete responsibility. They work with the engineers and get the releases on time. But I'm saying, it is theoretically speaking, what is a product manager? What's a project manager? You could have the breakdown in both the ways, right? Anyone wants to go in with a reflection? Yeah, Aryan.
Like what I understood from this is that when we talk about like how to create an MVP, it's important to kind of create this like user-centric journey first, that like in whole what the user will do. So this like this kind of makes us not kind of think too much about the user, and at the same time it helps us to get the necessary feedback. And also another thing, like while creating it, it's a side reflection as such. Like another thing that usually it's like when you are actually planning to where the next stage is execution, there are usually 2 components through which you create that whole flow. So one is kind of the data you have, and other is that how you use it. So that's the basic front end. Oh, that's all front end and back end. So that is the thing. And I also had a question. So in the starting, you discussed about what's the basic value of what Uber is doing, that creating good economics for cabs. But how does that affect what you are doing while you're actually creating the app?
Because you want to understand what is the main objective, right? My main objective is I want to make rides happen. It helped me understand that main objective, right? I want to make more rides happen. That's why you took the GPS and you tried to calculate and all of that, right? That's why you're tracking the history, showing the guy how much he earns and all that, because you know what you want to do for each stakeholder and you know what you want to be realizing at the end of the MVP. You know what to focus on, right? You know what to prioritize through the macro story. Okay. Thanks a lot for the lovely questions. I think it was a fantastic discussion and I hope it helps all of you execute your projects better. Good night, everyone.